Chapter 2 Escape. Terah handed Abram to the midwife, who cradled him up to her breast. Then the old bald man turned around and addressed himself to his wife Amthelo. "Are you well?" he asked. "In time, my lord," she said. It was the custom of the day for a married woman to call her husband my lord, and Terah was also held in great renown by all the people of Ur. "Be glad of heart," Terah said. "The king and his courtiers have come to celebrate this child's birth. Come, let me take him up to them, that the king may bless him." Amthelo sighed. "My heart is glad that my son will be so honored. Still, I pray you, let me hold my child to my bosom, and do not let him be parted from his mother so soon. There will be time enough for him to be blessed by the king. Surely you will not begrudge me this small joy." Terah smiled. "Very well, I shall dismiss the guests and bring Abram before the king on a more convenient time." The midwife handed Abram back to Terah, who returned the child to his Amthelo's waiting arms. Then he went at once back to the upper room to attend upon his guests. In any age, a host is expected to attend to his guests whenever they are under his hospitality, and more so in such places where a high stock is placed on hospitality. So it was in Ur. When Terah returned to the upper room, he saw that the king was in discourse with Anuki and two of the sorcerers. All the others had returned to their tables, and were feasting, drinking, or carousing with the courtesans. The keen eyes of Nimrod noticed Terah's return without the need of announcement, and at once he summoned the old man over to him. Terah bowed low before the king, who again picked him up by the shoulders and placed him upon his feet. "We have an urgent request for you, Terah son of Nahor," Nimrod said. "Come, stand with us upon the terrace." The two of them made their way over to the terrace and looked out upon the city. "Behold, the city of Ur," Nimrod said, "chief of the cities of our great kingdom that holds sway over all the world. Over there, though hidden by the night, stands the base of our great monument. Work persists on it night and day. Every brick and mortar is held in higher reverence than life itself. This is the heart of an eternal empire that shall stand for all time." "It is truly magnificent," Terah bowed. "Of a truth, there are some who doubt that such a thing is possible," Nimrod returned. "Some who have said that such ambitions are beyond the power of the great king. They say that the gods will not allow us to live long enough to fashion so great an empire. To those we direct to this monument. When it is completed, it shall be a tower that reaches unto the heavens. Then we shall ascend into the heavens and kill any god that defies the will of Nimrod, and we shall be the new gods of the sky. As your majesty wills it, so let it be done," Terah said, once more bowing. "Behold, most noble Terah," Nimrod continued, "what great lengths we have taken to secure our kingdom and our legacy. No obstacle, great or small, shall be spared." "It is as you have said, your majesty," Terah demurred. "We are pleased that you have said this," Nimrod said, "for then you are agreed with us in this request that we have for you." "I am at your command, your majesty," Terah bowed. "The sorcerers have seen an ill omen in the sky this night," Nimrod began. "They tell us that it heralds that great woe and disaster shall befall our kingdom on account of the son that was born this night to you. Therefore, bring the child before us, so that we may slay him and avert this great disaster." Nimrod rose up from his prostrate position, his eyes wide with alarm and fear. He had been in the service of Nimrod for many years, and if ever there was a need for his sword, Terah was always the first to answer. But now, the task to which he had been set was indescribably horrific. At once he tried to think of a way out of this. Apparently, though, his hesitance had not gone unnoticed by the king. "Have you not heard what we said?" Nimrod asked. "Bring us the child so that it may die. We shall even buy him from you, enough silver and gold to fill your house from floor to the ceiling." "Your majesty, I have heard every word of what you have said," Terah replied, "and it brings to mind a thing that happened but a few nights ago. If you will but listen to my tale and give judgment in this matter, I will do as you desire." "Speak then," Nimrod returned. "We shall listen to your word." "It so happened," Terah began, "several days ago, that a certain man came to my house. Aon, the son of Mored, he was. He asked for the fair white horse that is the prize of my stable, for it is the same horse that your majesty presented to me as a gift. He offered silver and gold and straw for the horse's value. I knew not how to answer him. And so I told him that I would seek counsel of the king in this matter. Now, therefore, give judgment to my cause, and everything you say will I do."
"Only a fool would give away that prize steed," Nimrod replied, his countenance falling into a bitter expression. "There is none other like it upon the earth. Have we not been good to you these many years in your service to us? Have we not given you riches and possessions greater than any prince in our kingdom? Are you indeed so short of silver and gold that you would sell your horse for any price?"
"Your Majesty, your words are true and just," Terah bowed. "Therefore I say unto you, with the utmost humility and respect, what is gold and silver to me, though it should fill my house from floor to ceiling, for the life of my son? Behold, all the gold and silver that you may give me shall return to you at my death. What then is it to me?"
"Will you mock the word of your king?" Nimrod returned angrily. The decorum of the court wilted beneath his wrath, such that drove the wild animals in fear before his presence. "Am I not Nimrod? And my voice is your commandment. Bring now your son before me, so that he shall die."
With these words the party came to a screeching halt. The minstrels ceased their playing, and the revelers ceased their reveling. All eyes turned now in terror towards the wrath of the king before his servant. If the king could be so angered before Terah, the friend of the king, how much better would they fare in the day of wrath?
"Your Majesty," Terah said, prostrating himself before the king, "I meant no disrespect. Surely all that I have is within your power, to do with even as you please. As you have spoken, let it be done without any money and without price." "Not so," Nimrod replied, his anger subsiding for a moment. "He shall be bought with a price." "Then, your Majesty," Terah replied, "I beg your patience in this matter. I have 3 sons, and the youngest I love no less than the others. It will be a hard thing to give him up to the slaughter. Therefore, I pray, give me 3 days to consider the matter in full. It is only a small thing that I ask. Never before have I asked for anything for myself, and now I ask for this only: the span of 3 days' time to weigh this matter in my heart, and with my household."
Nimrod noticed that all were watching them. He turned to them with his fierce dark eyes, and they bowed low before him. He then turned back to Terah, a look of derision in his eyes.
"If what you ask is so little," Nimrod reasoned, "why should we not rather have the child brought forth and slain here and now?" "Your Majesty," Terah said, "you desire to make your name greatest above all the peoples of the world. It will show forth your magnanimity if you give me but 3 days. Surely all the people will say of Nimrod, 'Behold, he is stern and powerful, wise and full of understanding, for he forestalled the killing of the son of his trusted servant for 3 days out of his greatness.'"
Nimrod nodded, stroking his beard, but his countenance did not alter.
"Very well. 3 days you shall have, but not 1 hour more. At the end of 3 days we shall summon you to the palace, and command yet again that you give us your son at a price. Mark well our words. If you fail to do this, our wrath shall be unleashed upon you. You, your household, and all that you have will be destroyed. There shall remain nothing of your name, not even a dog."
Needless to say, the feast was over. Nimrod dismissed the guests and ordered the servants to clean up the mess. Terah, meanwhile, was left in sorrow and dismay over the impossible task he was presented. He shook and shivered, wringing his hands and clawing madly at his bald head. Haran saw that his father was distressed and, pausing from overseeing the cleaning of the festival, came to him.
"What troubles you, my lord?"
Haran asked.
"The king, may he live forever, has asked a terrible thing of me," Terah said.
He then relayed to his son what Nimrod had commanded him.
"Why then do you hesitate?" Haran returned. "The king is the lord of all the world. He is the voice of the gods. Why would you even think about betraying him?" "But he asks for my son," Terah retorted. "So?" Haran responded. "Am I not your son, and your firstborn? And what of my brother, whom you named after your esteemed father? Have not the gods blessed you with 2 sons, securing the future of your name and all that you have? What then is 1 son less?" "Be silent!" Terah shouted. "Do not mock your father in his time of distress. I would have thought such insolence had been beaten out of you by your nursemaid when you were still a child." "Forgive me, my lord," Haran bowed. "I mean no disrespect to your great name. Do as your heart desires."
Terah dismissed Haran and began pacing the floor. He feared the king's wrath, which would surely come upon him if he disobeyed his command. Yet he would not give up his son, the youngest son, the child of his old age. Then suddenly the words of his son came back to his mind. What is 1 son less? At first they seemed like mockery, but then he remembered something. The steward of his house had begotten a son by his wife, who was one of Amthelo's maidservants. One male child was no different than another, especially since baby Abram hadn't been seen by Nimrod. The steward and his wife were under Terah's power, and they would be forced to obey his command if he told them to give him their son. This way he could give Nimrod a son and spare Abram's life in the process. With that, he made his way back to the birthing chamber with great haste. Pushing open the door, he saw Amthelo, fully dressed and rested after the ordeal, holding Abram in her arms. "Come, wife," Terah said. "You must gird your loins and make ready to depart this place." "What do you mean, my lord?" Amthelo asked. "I've just given birth. I'm in no condition to travel." "You must go," Terah replied. "Take Abram and your nurse and go into the mountains. I will find you in time." "But it is late," Amthelo protested. "I am weary and my son is sleeping. We cannot go anywhere this night." "By Haldi's bow," Terah swore. "There is no time. The king wants to kill Abram." Amthelo yelped in fear, clutching her baby closer to her breast in fear. "Not my child!" "Truly, the king has decreed his death in 3 days' time. That is why you must leave now. Leave, and take the child with you." "But the king's word is law," Amthelo replied. "What will happen to you if you do not obey his command?" "That has been arranged, my wife," Terah returned. "For now, you must leave. I'll send a servant to help you pack your things." He turned about and went to seek the servant to his house. He would have more than a few choice words with him, and likely lose the respect of his trusted servant in the process. Meanwhile, the nurse who had attended Amthelo began packing her mistress's belongings in preparation for the sudden departure. Suddenly, within minutes of Terah's departure from the birthing room, a tall man with a long beard walked into the birthing chamber. He was dressed for a journey with a staff in his hand, and bore sacks full of clothes. "Woman, I have your belongings packed for the journey," the man said to Amthelo in a strong voice. "I will lead you and your son out of the city." "Are you the servant my lord said would send?" Amthelo asked. "I am a servant, that is true," the man said. "But the son of Nahor is not my master. My name is Gabriel, and I am a servant of the Most High. He has sent me to bring your son to safety this night." "But my lord said he would find us," Amthelo replied. "How can this be if I leave with you?" "I will return to your lord, the son of Nahor, and tell him where you have gone and the way there," said Gabriel. "But you must leave now. Nimrod will surely change his mind and come for your son this very night, rather than waiting 3 days. We must go." Amthelo nodded, then called for her servants to dress her for the journey. As she had already changed from the blood and sweat-stained undergarments and into clean ones, she needed only traveling clothes and good sandals. Over this she wore a shawl that wrapped around and covered her head. The heat of the day in the region of Urartu was oppressive, and such head covering was necessary. Once she was dressed, she bound Abram within the bosom of her robe, and then, led by Gabriel, went with her nursemaid out of the mansion. They left by the back way, and Gabriel led them by the light of a single torch through the dark city streets. As they went, Amthelo worried that they would be forced to confront the guards at the gate, and that their escape would therefore be compromised. But there was no resistance when they came to the gate. The guards seemed not to notice them, and the gate had been left open. The 4 of them passed out the gates of the city of Ur and into the wilderness beyond. Even as they went, Amthelo cast back one fleeting glance at the glowing lights of the city. She hesitated for a moment, then, with tears in her eyes, turned about and followed the mysterious stranger. It would be many years before she would see the city of Ur and the house of Terah once again. Tune in next time for Chapter 3.